couple of questions, and then hopefully at the end we'll have some time to open it up for audience Q&A. Is it making a weird sound?
Yes, it's a little bit of feedback.
It's a little bit of feedback.
How does?
You just keep one on at a time, so
Yeah, you go.
that should help.
Is it better?
Yeah.
Oh, period. Okay. So hopefully we'll have some time at the end for audience Q&A, but I'll get into a couple questions. But before, I want to introduce our amazing panelists to you all. I'm going to start out with Chanel Dupree, who is an award-winning screenwriter and director based in New York City. Yes. Give it up. Her feature documentary, You Think You've Grown, Dismantling Adultification, premiered at the Apollo Theater, walked away with Best Documentary Feature, and is now being taught at New York University. She is a winner of Spec That Scene, a finalist for Women Right Now, and a fellow of Brick's Screenwriting Lab. And Chanel's work can also be found in HuffPost, NPR's In Black America, ABC's Here and Now, and African Voices magazine. Kiamsha Bynes is a PhD candidate in the department here at Rutgers University. Her dissertation examines the experiences of Black female athletes, Black sportswomen throughout the 20th century, as a way to construct a more inclusive history of Black athletes in the United States. Kiamsha was also a student athlete at University of Illinois Chicago and Bloomfield College, where she played basketball. China Cornwell is a senior post player on the Rutgers women's basketball team. She has received numerous accolades for both her athletic and academic performances, including All Big Ten Honorable Mention, a 3-time academic All Big Ten selection, and a Big Ten Sportsmanship Award honoree. China has also participated in the Big Ten Conference's Big Life Series, Selma to Montgomery, where student athletes and coaches travel to Alabama for an immersive experience on the civil rights movement in the South. We are also joined by Heron Fontanet, who is a senior at Douglas Residential College, majoring in history with a concentration in Black Studies and a minor in public policy, while also earning a certificate in law and history. A proud poet and spoken word artist from Jersey City, Heron's work explores histories of Black femininity, Black American history, and interdiasporic African resistance and culture. Uju Wananiri is a junior double majoring in public health and journalism, and is also a candidate for the accelerated BA, BS, MPH program. Uju is currently the editor-in-chief for the Daily Targum, the student newspaper here, and a resident assistant on the Cook Douglas campus. And last, but certainly not least, we are joined by Coquise Washington, who is the head coach of the Rutgers women's basketball team. In her 3rd season at the helm of the women's team, Coach Washington brings with her a long list of awards and accolades. She is a Big Ten champion, an NCAA champion, a WNBA champion, and, I'm not done, and a USA basketball gold medalist.
Yes.
And if y'all thought that was the gag, she served as the founding president of the WNBA Players Association, where she helped negotiate the first collective bargaining agreement in women's professional sports history. And, not to gag you again, she is currently the co-chair of the Women's Basketball Coaches Association's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. So, you know, some esteemed panelists we have up here. Lots of questions I want to get into. First, I wanted to start off with Chanel. Thank you so much for sharing your wonderful film with us this evening. We all had the mm-hms, we had the laughs, I heard a couple of sniffles. So I was wondering first if you could, it's briefly mentioned in the documentary, but if you could start off by saying, you know, what inspired you to make the film, especially given that we're joined here by Rutgers Women's Basketball. What's the meaning behind that, and just what inspired you to make this beautiful film?
Hello? Yes. So you want to pass? I turn it on. Okay, perfect.
project. I was a theater kid anyway. I'm gonna just project. Y'all alright
Yep.
with this? Okay. So I had this inspiration back in 2016. That's when the research really started. I was going to therapy and I was teaching at the same time. I was teaching in after school, and it was my first time on the teacher side and not the student side. And I'm hearing how teachers speak about Black girls. And I'm in therapy learning about how important our childhood is and trauma and all of these different things. Thank you so much. And one thing that really radicalized me, I'll give you 3 examples. Shavonzele Wallace, she was an actress nominated for an Oscar. She's 9 years old, and she had a run-in with Chrissy Teigen where she corrected her by saying her name, and she called her a brat and the C word, and went on an entire Twitter tirade about this 9-year-old having the nerve to correct her name. At the same time, there was a petition going around that was signed by over 30,000 people begging for Blue Ivy's hair to be straightened. She was 2 years old at the time. And this last thing, I'm in the teacher's lounge and a Black girl walks by, junior high school. And this teacher says, I can tell she's having sex. Look at the way she's walking. And she said it to me like, girl, can you? And I'm looking at her like, are you out of your mind? How can I get your license taken away right now, ma'am? But the fact that she felt so comfortable to say that, it infuriated me, and it made me ask why. Why can you look at a Black girl and you see something sexual and you condemn her with this type of stamp and over police her? And from there, I started to do a lot of research on what this is, and then Georgetown in 2016 came out with a research called Girlhood Interrupted, the Adultification of Black Girls, and it was 26 pages, and I said, this is what I want to do. And I went on a journey of about 7 years of research for it.
I'm also like, do we need to use a mic? Because I also did theater.
Diaphragm.
Can everyone hear in the back? Can y'all hear? Perfect. Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing all of that and for sharing the film with us. It's mentioned briefly in the film, but for folks who are unfamiliar, there was an incident back in 2007. Rutgers women's basketball was playing Tennessee, Pat Summitt, I think, in the final, and a radio personality host, Don Imus, super famous, huge platform, had said some pretty disparaging remarks about the Rutgers women's team. I don't particularly want to, put that energy in the air, but for folks who are familiar or the videos are online, it was quite a big scandal. And I think that for a lot of people in the moment really illustrated like the way that we talk about Black girls, the way we talk about Black women, and it was pretty horrific. And so
just to mention that too,
Please.
because I almost forgot that in my response, I was a kid when that happened, and I remember I wrote a poem about it. That's how it affected me, because I was just so angered by it, and then to see like certain Black people to it, I will never forget that moment. And I remember when I first sat down for research, I wrote that down, and I was like, no matter where this film goes, I have to mention that, because they were girls, they were kids playing a game, being beautiful and Black, and someone had to take that and just make them feel low about it and put it on a national scale. And so that is definitely one of the earliest moments. Even before I realized what adultification was and all this, that's definitely the earliest seed I can think of.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because in the film it talks about personal and familial settings also being a site where this happens. The classroom is a particular and enduring site of violence and shame for Black girls and women. And so I'm wondering, for Coach Washington, for China, and also for Kiamsha, how do you see sports and extracurricular, places play into this dynamic? Do you see those dynamics there? And, for Coach Washington, I'd be interested to know, are these conversations you have with your players? How does it kind of inform your coaching philosophy? And for Kiamsha and China, if you could speak to this from a student-athlete perspective, I would love to hear your thoughts on how this intersects with the sports world.
With the sports world, personally, I deal with a lot of just like, I'd say that type of like slander, especially not necessarily in college. I would have to say it has gotten better in college, thankfully. But in high school, I dealt with it a lot. I am from the South. I am from the country, suburbs, give or take. I went to a predominantly white school. I was one of very few black girls. And let alone I was tall. I stood out. I was athletically gifted, academically gifted as well. And you know, I'm playing against a bunch of predominantly white schools as well. You're hearing parents in the crowd. You're hearing, you know, different. You're hearing your opponents, you know, talk crazy to you as well. And you know, my dad, he'll go to bat for his daughters, and then my mom as well. But you know, also fearing your own safety as well. My parents couldn't really do that, and also my own safety as well too. So I had to really be quiet and like seal my lips, even though I really wanted to say something. And another reason why too, I wanted to go to a school that was like, you know, farther away than, you know, my state, also to experience a different atmosphere, different environment. Also, I appreciated the moments of playing on a school team that was, you know, full of black girls as well, like girls who are like me, and to feel very comfortable. Where I came from a school and played on AAU teams where I was pretty much the only black girl, maybe there was another black girl as well. But I was blessed with the opportunity to play on a team that was full of black girls, to feel comfortable and not to really deal with that necessarily, and also go to college where I didn't have to hear a lot of the remarks that I heard when I was in high school, and knowing that I couldn't really do nothing about it because, you know, coming outside after the game when there's no street lights and it's a bunch of just cornfields and stuff, and then, you know, dealing with all this, like, it was a very uncomfortable and something I would never forget as well. But also it made me have a tougher exterior as well when dealing with a lot of things relating to life.
Well, I would say, as a coach and as mom of an athlete, you know, my daughter's in high school. It is really a fine line that, you know, our players walk with being an athlete and being a woman. And how do you balance that? Because when you're on the court, you know, you're trying to kill, right? You are trying to be aggressive and but at the same time, y'all look at China. That's how China dress on game day. She got lipstick, you know, she got her lashes on. It's the same thing. And so when you are walking that line of, and I love in the documentary how so many of the women on there talked about being you and being yourself, and not having to make that choice every day to who do I need to be? Who do I need to be to make other people comfortable? And I love where we are going as in a sports society where women don't now have to make that, we don't have to be as conscious or as apologetic about being who we want to be, whether we're competing or whether we're not competing. And that is a space that we've grown to. For a long time, we had to make that choice. I can't be as aggressive because I don't want to make you uncomfortable. I can't be as feminine as I want to because I'm gonna make somebody else aggressive. I can't be as natural as I want to be in terms of my appearance because that might make somebody else uncomfortable. And so as a coach and as a mom, I encourage them to don't worry about being making other people comfortable. You know, worry about making yourself comfortable. When we're on the court competing, you know. So I'll give you an example. They would tell me, Coach, what time is practice over? Because I got to get my lashes done. And I tell them, we're going to be done so you can go get your lashes done. So I want to make sure that you are comfortable with who you want to be. And that is part of what we can do as coaches, educators, teachers, is empower them to and give them the agency and the opportunity to be who you are. And don't apologize for being who you are. Don't worry about making other people comfortable, right? Because by being your best self and being great in your space, now we inspire others to do the same. So when we play on Sunday at 2:00, we are trying to inspire others to be the best version of you in your space, because that's what we're gonna do in our space. And in our space as Rutgers women's basketball athletes, we are going to have our lipstick on, we are going to have our lashes on, and we are gonna throw some bows at the same time while we're looking good, because that's who we are. That's who we are. And if we can come out and show you that we can do this in our space, so you do you in your space, then we have made an impact. And that's something that we talk about within our team. How are we going to inspire our community? How are we going to be impactful in our community? And it's not about anything more than being proud and aggressive and authentic. We talk about authenticity a lot. Be authentic in how you show up every day. And if we can do that, then we have made an impact in our community. And so I remember, you know, I wasn't coaching at Rutgers, but I was hurt by that for Essence Carson and for the other Rutgers women's basketball, because in that moment, it had nothing to do with about them being excellent, to be in the Final Four, to be playing for a national championship. That is the height of excellence in our profession, in our space. And at that moment, it was not about their excellence, but it was about something that is meaningless. You know, how we look, not how we play. Not how good we are at what we do. Not that we're elite at what we do, but how we look at that moment. And they was wrong. We didn't even look like what they said we looked like. But that became the story. That became the story more than the excellence with which we showed up at. So I hurt for them because all their hard work was minimized for a joke, for a laugh. And I thought at that time that Coach Stringer and the team handled it with so much grace and dignity and class. And fortunately, that is the enduring legacy of that moment. Not so much what that guy did or said, but how Black women responded with grace, class, dignity, and overcame that moment. So we aspire to do that all the time. You know, we aspire to respond to less than stellar moments with class, grace, dignity, and excellence, and then keep it moving, right? And so that's why I'm glad that I can be a part of that story and continue that legacy of Rutgers women's basketball being an example of how we do that, how we as Black women endure and carry on and let who we are and who we show up as be the enduring legacy of, especially in sport. So, that was a long answer to your question.
Go ahead, Kiki.
Some of y'all may know me as Kiki in the crowd. Kiamsha is my name in academic spaces. Again, just to piggyback off of everything that was said, one amazing film. A lot of that, as I'm sure a lot of us in the room resonated a lot with us. I was too a part of a lot of Lord, I remember that. Yep, growing up, raised by my grandmother and my mother, definitely having those experiences. I think for me, and as I was watching it, and I was like, adultification, okay, I know what this means. I definitely have those experiences in the classroom and in school. Those are the two biggest things. Sometimes church, the Black church can be another space for that. But I'm like, okay, how did this translate, or what's the closest experience I had in a basketball setting? And one thing that I think stuck with me or made me make the connection was how much grace is given to non-Black women players when it comes to being passionate, when it comes to being competitive, when it comes to having that grit. And I was told, like, you a hothead, Kiki, like, like, and in my mind, and I would be frustrated, like, not a bad teammate, but I'm mad I missed that layup, or I'm mad I made a turnover, I made a bad pass, so I'm upset at myself. Or and every now and then, a bad call, and I'm like, ref, it's an automatic tech, just for questioning the ref, right? And then you'll play white girls. They can slam the ball, they can slap the floor, they can curse, and it's just, hey. They get a little bit more patience, right? They get a little bit more coddling in that atmosphere of sports, right? And I'm not sure if that's necessarily the same way we look at adultification, but thinking about how Black girls are supposed to maintain our feelings and our emotions, right? And be able to endure. Like, no matter what's being thrown at you, especially when you think about sports, it's like take whatever and keep going. But sometimes I'm sure we all, as the athletes in the room and coaches, can understand some things is a little lopsided, right? Or even playing on a predominantly Black team, growing up playing on a predominantly Black AAU team and traveling, and it already being ingrained in our mind when we play a predominantly white team. Y'all already know how this game about to go. All right? So I'm going here, you may get fouled. They may not call it. You have to keep playing, right? You have to keep your head. You cannot let your composure, so that was something that was always taught to me in an athletic space, right? Like, no matter what, keep playing, no matter what. And I think that's what a lot of Black women deal with anyway. No matter what is thrown at you, keep going. And that's something that, I'm like, I don't know if it's adultification, but it's this idea that we don't have that space and that right to deal with our emotions the same way, and the grace that is given to non-Black women in sports and basketball, soccer, whatever. And the one story that stuck with me and listening to everything was in high school, state championship game. We're in the locker room. We're two separate locker rooms, but the walls were thin enough to hear. And we played a predominantly white school, probably like a private school. And he's like, they jump higher than you, they're faster than you, they're stronger than you, they're tougher than you. We hearing it. He's like, but they're not smarter than you. we all look at each other like, what are you talking about? And I think in the moment it was like, we're winning, so we're feeling good. But the pep talk that's going on in that room is that they are only winning and only defeating you right now because of some sort of athletic ability, like this athletic excellence that we have over them. And I think that hit a nerve because it coming out of the locker room now, we're overthinking our game plan and stuff. He's like, you're trying to jump with them and you're not getting the ball. So you need to use your fundamentals. You need to use your brain. And we're like, are we not using our brain in this game right now? And that was even an awkward situation because we were a predominantly Black team. But my high school coach was a white woman. So it was kind of like, don't let that get to you, girls. Like, not really addressing it. I'm not saying she needed to at the time. It was just it was awkward. But I say all of that to say, in the space as a former athlete, I think how this film and the conversations we've been having, how it resonates with me and in my past was just having to feel like I had to navigate sports a different way, especially growing up in Jersey, playing with boys. I'm seeing this type of play around me, so I'm not playing any way different from how I know it. And as a coach now in high school, the only thing that I try to do with my girls and my players is just try to reframe how I deal with them when they're in those moments of like frustration and passion. Like, I know it's passion. Like, I know that you're frustrated that you just turned the ball over or whatever, but you sulking and throwing up your jersey and everything. Unfortunately, like, and I hate to say it, like, that's what the coaches in the crowd see, right? So now, like, I want to meet them halfway where I'm like, you have to be coachable, but if you make a mistake, try to just frame it this way. Like, you lose it on offense, get it back on defense, and vice versa. So I do believe that representation matters. I do believe that Black women, we need to be in these spaces to be able to deal with women and young girls growing up, but even more so Black girls in a space where women's sports is definitely on the upside. So Y'all come out on Sunday. I'll be there.
That's a perfect example. That's definitely adultification and being overly policed, because we see it with Angel Reese right now. Her and Caitlin Clark did the same thing, and it was just like, she's disrespectful, she's horrible, she's this and that, and we see with Serena Williams, she can throw that rack and she gets points deducted. Her white counterparts do the exact same thing. Sha'Carri Richardson, like, they can't show passion, and it's a passionate sport. Like, it's endurance, and you're running up and down the court. Of course you're gonna get frustrated, and it's so crazy that in a sport that is already supposed to be aggressive, that is the place where they're supposed to show their aggression, it's supposed to show their passion, and it's still deemed as negative, and they still have that stereotype over. And then for them to say that they are smarter than you, but you guys are running and jumping, it kind of goes back to the whole, like, black bodies are just more stronger and can jump higher and do all that. Not that you guys have worked out, not that you guys have sacrificed personal time in order to get your body to those places, but no, you're just black, you can just jump over the moon, and you're not using your brain, as if that's not such a strategic sport. Like, you literally have to think and pivot in the moment. So that is an incredible example of over-policing and adultification.
And I'm glad you brought up the Angel Reese thing, because that was what was, coming to me. And I think what's also really interesting about this moment for women's basketball in particular, I'll out myself and say, long-time women's basketball fan, used to be a player if these knees held up. Y'all might see me. But it's interesting that as it has gotten, as new people have come to the sport, the conversations have also taken on a particular character. You mentioned the Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. There's a bunch of other examples that we could name, but what's also striking to me is how social media plays a part in that. Because the whole moment between them, how that was replicated on social media.
Crazy.
Serena's always in social media, people meme her and all these different things, and I think that was something that was a really big theme in the documentary, was how social media perpetuates all the kinds of things that happen in day-to-day life and how we treat, harm, violate Black women and Black girls. And this was a question that I wanted to ask China, Uju, and Heron as sort of the student representatives on the panel. And in this particular moment where we are in the world, however we would like to characterize that, we're having a lot of conversations about social media, how it's used for political propaganda, how it's used for surveillance. And so I wanted to ask you all if you have any thoughts about how adultification and its related dynamics have played out on social media, but also, is there anything positive about social media? Can it be harnessed for good? Like, is there a way to use social media to kind of combat these dynamics, or do we need to do away with it entirely? What are y'all's thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can take it first. So, I will say this about social media from my perspective as a teenager. I was introduced to social media when I got to middle school. Instagram was at its height. Facebook wasn't super popular, but you were able to utilize it. Tumblr was also a thing. And across those social media mediums, Blackness was either very colloquial, it was very stereotyped, or it just was not present. I'm thinking back particularly to this one instance where I was on Tumblr, and I'd only gotten on it because there were white girls in my school who were on it, and they said, oh, Heron, you should go, and it's like really cool, and you can post aesthetic things, and you can see yourself represented. That's the one thing we're looking for, representation, right? I go on Tumblr, and I see nothing but whiteness. Any semblance of Blackness or anything that could be emblematic of me, it was mocked. My specific hair texture, it's 4C, and so if I looked up, in like 2014, flower crowns were popular. So if I looked up flower crowns on Tumblr, it was always, girls with straight hair. And if it was a Black girl, she either had to have her hair straightened or you just couldn't find anything. And so the kind of image that I was looking to perpetrate, not only just on media, but in my real life, was one of Eurocentricity. And so this is more of like a negative experience with social media. It forced me to essentially hate my blackness. Yeah, in my youth, I was never really, I never acquainted myself or tried to get accustomed to what it meant to be black. I never wanted to study the history. I never wanted to talk about the texture of my hair. Any black media, I engaged with out of force. And it wasn't until I got on Instagram where these self-perpetrated ideas of blackness, they could either be helpful or harmful. And so over time, my relationship with social media, it had to be self-guided. There was like this essence of like self-education. I shifted away from Tumblr because that just wasn't my thing. And I found myself on Instagram, and I found myself specifically on these hair tutorials. You know, how to do like 2-strand twists, how to do the braids, how to do like Bantu knots, and I just wanted to know the basics of how to take care of myself, how to feel beautiful in my skin. And so from that negativity that I found on Tumblr, I was able to find a safe haven, dare I say, through Instagram, but that was only through the things that I intentionally looked at. I intentionally took the time to type black girl hairstyles, black girl nails, black girl fashion, black girl pre-law, black girl history, black girl science, you know, things of that nature. I took that into my own hands. And so I say all this, and I don't really know if I'm making the point really clear. Social media, you create this echo chamber for yourself. That echo chamber, it can be really biased, it can be really negative depictions of blackness, of yourself, or it can be what you want to see. It can be what you make it into. Black TikTok, for instance, I can't tell you how many times I've deleted, re-uploaded TikTok onto my phone, and every time it's been both a hassle and a joy to get back on Black TikTok, because every time you see something new, you see something beautiful. There's there's this Black Hillman TikTok University.
Oh my god.
Yeah, like that. It shows how dynamic we are. But that's only because there were some things that we didn't see, and we worked to ensure that we saw them. I don't know if that answered the question, but that is my relationship.
Yeah. And to piggyback off of Karen, I think, especially within our generation, social media, we've pretty much grown up on social media, and I really hate to say it, but my mom was right. It is that damn phone. it is that damn phone. I think that social media forgets that Black children are children at the end of the day. I think one of the most heinous social media accounts where I don't even like interacting with it is the shade room sometimes. Oh, those comments are disgusting. They're honestly so heinous, and it will be a picture of, I don't even know, like Northwest, and she'll have like her makeup done, she'll have her hair long, she'll have like tooth gems in, and there'll people be in the comments like, oh, why is she trying to be all grown, or I didn't know she was 11, like, you know, just the most worst things you can imagine. And I think that a lot of the times people look at Black children as like these objects to redefine and to kind of ridicule, because like, oh, well, it's social media, it's a public space. If you don't want that, don't post that. If you don't want that to be showcased, why should that be the case? Why should Black children, why should Black mothers have to police and monitor because, oh, well, these people are going to be saying these things about my child, these racist things, these horrible things. And another one is Beyonce's The Twins. I forgot their name. Yes. And the things that I would see about them, even too, a lot of them say, oh, they look like grown men. They look just like Jay-Z. They look like. It's honestly, I think that it's something that's so harmful to see, especially as a growing child, especially being so young on social media. You're seeing these things said about other Black women, and you're kind of starting to take that in for yourself, and you're starting to almost manifest those things for yourself. And I think it's something that we are just forced to adapt with, like, as we go along, like Karen saying, searching up Black girl hairstyles. Like, why am I going on Pinterest? I'm looking up knotless braids and I'm seeing French, I'm seeing, that's crazy. Why am I having to type in box braids Black girl? Like, that's, I think things like that is really shaped in the algorithm without us knowing and being aware about it. And I think we're told to morph ourselves rather than change the system and change the algorithm itself.
Personally, this might sound kind of blunt, but I knew Instagram was cooked whenever I first of all, I got on social media very early. You know, my parents got me a phone and stuff. You know, I got on social media. I thought Instagram at the time, you know, older Instagram, you know, I would post pictures with, you know, me and my cousins and, you know, just post pictures of my nails and stuff. You know, I thought Instagram was just like a lifestyle. You know, I'm gonna post every minute of the day what I'm doing and stuff, like post on my page. And so, like, you know, it was just pretty cool, whatever. And then, you know, in middle school, they had the TBHs, like, to be honest and stuff. And, oh boy. And then, so, you know, I was just like, you know, one of the, white girls in my school, like these two white girls, whatever, posted on their page saying, to be honest, like if you wanted to be honest. I said, okay, cool, I'm gonna like it. So I liked it, and you know, they're like a year older than me. And at the time, even though I went to predominantly white schools with very few Black people, my mom made sure I never forget my Blackness, as in my hairstyles, what I wore, like my clothes and everything. Like, I still went to school like these cute braids and cute styles and stuff, and certain like braiding like hair types. Like, I think this one braid hair was like really stringy. It was naturally curly too. It was synthetic, obviously, but I would wear like black and red, or like just wear all, like, you know, I have my own taste. Like, you know, I asked my mom what she could do, she'd do it. Like, she'll figure it out. But like, you know, I went to school with my hair like that. I guess probably that day, you know, asked for it, to be honest, that night. And one of the girls said, to be honest, you cool. Well, she rated me a 7, which is crazy. But like, you know, so she gave me a 7, and 7 out of 10. And she said, to be honest, you cool, but your hair looks like spaghetti noodles, or like extremely. The white girl said that, and I said, so I was a little hurt. I was like, dang, like, I thought Instagram was supposed to be nice, like people, you know, just say cool stuff, and I'm over here just like looking at every TBH and rate or whatever she's doing, everybody else. They just seem nice and cute with the compliments, and then she just came at me about my hair and stuff, and I'm just like, dang, so this is what it's really about. So here comes me trying to like change how I post and change my hair and change who I am because of just one simple comment like that just really changed my entire perspective of an app. Now, personally, I love TikTok. I think TikTok is very informational for me personally as a Black girl, and also for me like spiritually in a way. I also find it very motivational as well. I guess what my For You page shows me, everybody's For You page is different, but my For You page, I love it. It's stacked and organized the way I want it. But Instagram to me can really allow me to, I think Instagram can make someone feel very insecure about themselves, particularly just like a Black girl in general, and make you look at yourself differently just because of what you see on your feed, what you see from just like different people, what you hear from different people as well. I feel like people on Instagram are a smidge more blunt than they are on like any other app, in my opinion, from what I've seen from the comment section and to like reposts and stuff. I feel like you can really get in your head about yourself and really be looked at in a different way, and also grow up quicker as well. I feel like Instagram allowed me to see things that I didn't have no business seeing, developed quicker in a way that honestly I shouldn't have. And I honestly wish that I would have got introduced to it a little bit later instead of at such a young age. But you know, things happen. I don't regret it, but yeah, that's my perspective. Yeah.
I'm glad y'all brought up TikTok, because you know we're in a moment of reckoning in many things. But I think what all of your comments highlight is the importance of having spaces where you can kind of like share your story, to learn things, to bear witness to other people's stories. And I think that we really need to find ways to do that right now. And I think that's something that struck me about the film when I first watched it, is how powerful it is, but also how it is a testament to what it means to like give your testimony, to bear witness to other people's testimony, both of which are really strong traditions in Afro-diasporic communities. And so Chanel, I wanted to ask you, and also Heron as a spoken word artist, you know, to jump in on this, and really anyone, how did you develop your storytelling practice? And also, since we have like students in the room who may be interested in that, you know, do you have any advice? But what does it mean to tell stories? How do you do it? And how do you develop your practice and the traditions you choose to ground yourself in?
I think telling stories for me is a way to let the world know you are here. As a Black woman, a lot of our stories are written and produced and directed by people that do not look like us. So it has the narrative and the perspective that is not very true and nuanced to our full being. So I think when I go into storytelling, it's all about truth and it's all about honesty, however ugly or beautiful or uncomfortable that may be. When I first started with this project specifically, that's where I went first. I was just like, I have to tell the truth on all fronts, because when I do mention adultification, everyone kind of goes into, yes, the white man did this. And I'm like, yes, he did. Yes, they did. And we grabbed the baton and we kind of ran with it in our community. And in order to heal from anti-Blackness and heal within our community, we have to be honest about that. So after years of statistics and the reading and journals and all of these different things that I had to do, once I came together, I knew that I wanted to break it up in 4 parts. Because when I was reading about adultification, it only started in school. And I was like, that's not exactly true. We don't like have all this agency, all this autonomy, and then we go to school and it's strict. It starts in the home as well. And that's actually how I came up with the title for the film. And I really feel like the story started to build once I had the pre-interviews with the women. So as I was researching, I decided to put like a cast together, because over the years I was looking at professors and therapists and women who were just speaking about their experience and kind of writing down a spreadsheet like, okay, I want that person, I want that perspective. Once I started having these pre-interviews, which were 30 minutes each, the knowledge these women gave me, it knocked me on my feet, and it made all of this research and all of this data come to life and be true and be real, because here are 12 women, 9 women and 3 girls telling me right here that all of these stats are true, and this is my perspective. So I think I felt the heaviness of, you know, we had a wide range of someone being 50 and someone being 16, and all of their perspectives were basically parallel to each other. So I understood the heaviness of this and how far we have come, how far we need to come, and I think I took that on the journey of storytelling with me. And I have to give it to the cast, because, you know, you can research all you want, but if you don't have people kind of like to feed off of and give you more to go back to, even after their pre-interviews, I went back to research. And I was like, well, I have to ask a question about this, and what about this, and what about that? And I think making sure that we felt seen, we felt accountable, and we felt loved. A lot of times when we're talking about how we need to heal from our community, especially when we're talking to Black girls, we tend to talk like this. And there have been a couple of people that think you've grown means you're like, oh, finally you're telling these girls to stop being grown. I'm like, no. I'm actually telling you to calm that down and figure out where you got that from. Because so much of our teachings come like this, come in punishment. And there's a big difference between protecting and policing. And I wanted to make that very clear in the storytelling of this. And I wanted everyone to feel, because we're talking about slavery, we're talking about, you know, stereotypes from early 1800s and how that influences now, and I didn't want us to feel bogged down, and that's why I wanted to end off with how are you connecting to your inner child? What are those small, beautiful, pleasure ways that you can regain to yourself? And I wanted to take care of my audience because we don't get taken care of enough in life.
I think for me, my guiding principle in the work that I do as a spoken word artist, as a historian, as someone who's interested in civil rights law, I live by this quote. It's by Nina Simone. The artist's duty is to reflect the times, and as was stated in my bio. All of my pieces and my academic background, it is rooted in Afro-diasporic culture, specifically the culture of my people. I am a Louisiana Creole woman. I am a Black American freedman, and what comes with that legacy of chattel enslavement and that trauma is also a legacy and a history of resistance, and that is something that I try my damnedest to embody in all of my work. A piece that I often go back to, and that I've done in most of my speaking engagements at Rutgers, is a piece titled "Freed Woman." I wrote it in my freshman year after having a conversation with my father about just what Blackness means or meant in the context of that year, 2021, 2022. And so the statement, I guess, that codified that piece's fruition was BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, People of Color. And the kind of person I am in my artistry, I'm very specific. And so when I write pieces like Freed Woman, I'm alluding to the histories and literary culture of Audre Lorde, of James Baldwin. Her Eyes Were Watching God, Uncle Tom's Cabin, these historic manifestations and sometimes colloquial or inaccurate depictions of Blackness. I try to combat that in my work. Also in my study. I study history, but at Rutgers specifically, it's very Eurocentric. And so in my exercising of my self-determination and my pursuit of storytelling, I decided to shift directions completely. I said, yeah, I'm studying history, but I have a Black Studies concentration. Yes, I'm a poet, but I'm a slam poet. My poetry, it's going to hit you where it hurts. I am not going to make you feel comfortable. I'm doing this in order for my work and my truth to be heard. And my truth is that I am a freed woman. My truth is that I am a descendant of American chattel slavery. My truth is that I am a historian. And in everything that I do, I will work to educate people about the history of this country and the beauty of African diasporic culture. It is dynamic. It is, the trauma of a 16-year-old girl being told that she is fast. It is this pre and post-menopausal experience that Black 50-year-old women are transitioning into this new idealized version of themselves. It is death and rebirth. Yeah. That is the times, our times, and that is what I try to do. I reflect those times. I reflect my understanding, my ability to contextualize the times we're living in my work. So like I said, in pieces like Freedman, or in pieces where I'm talking about, or I'm reflecting on moments of my childhood where I was told I spoke well for a Black girl. Keep in mind, I'm 5 years old, and I just think that it's insane that you're telling me this. I'm able to reflect on those past experiences and bring them to life. There's another piece that I have. Sorry if I'm bogging y'all down. But I wrote it in my junior year after I was doing this exhibition, and I was told by one of the curators, oh, you're able to guide people through this exhibition so well. You speak so eloquently. Like, how do you think I'm supposed to speak? How am I supposed to write? How am I supposed to conduct myself as a black woman? I conduct myself in the way I see fit. Yeah, is that? I don't know if
I know we are out of time, but I did at least want to try to take one question from the audience, if someone had one before we wrap it up. Yeah.
So, first of all, Mr. Pre, excellent film. I really enjoyed it. Something I noticed in the 4 parts that as we were looking at adultification as a phenomenon and how it kind of evolves from when it starts from childhood to adolescence to growth, there was the common thread was clothing. Everybody talked about how the length of the clothing, whether it was the skirt, whether it was how much cleavage they were being shown, or they were shown. Why do you think clothing becomes this tool of policing, or almost a weapon of policing? Is it because it's just the easiest thing? Or is it because there is somehow, that is the most sexual thing we see on a woman?
That's so beautiful. And thank you for your compliment. That is amazing. That was really the common thread. Like, every single woman that came in, even the girls, like, that was the main thing. That so much so that we had to cut a lot because a lot of it was about clothing. I think it's a lot of things. I think it's how us as a society, what we see as like a woman's, how we look at the bodies of girls, but then also what we deem as like a grown woman's outfit and a child's outfit. And we're not talking like, you know, skirts that are like 2 inches, but with to the fang. One of the girls talked about having bangles or perfume was seen as being grown. I really do think it's our like we're like born with this bias that girls need to be completely covered up. And I do think it has to do with the policing, right? Because we're taught that if you wear these clothes, you will get this type of attention, even though we all know as you grow up, we can walk like covered with our eyes and we will still be harassed on the street. And I truly do think it's about trying to prevent sexualization by still sexualizing us. It's almost like I'm gonna shame you so before other people do it. And because also our bodies are so different. Like Dr. Nikki was saying that I was wearing a skirt just the same as a white girl was wearing a skirt, but because my body is different, it's hiked up differently on me. But she actually mentioned she had to kneel on rice in school several times because of that. So it's also like how things appear on us and looking at certain attributes that you think is a woman. You think that breasts and hips and long legs goes to a woman, but that could just be a young girl that is just developing just a little bit more, a little bit earlier. And very similar to what Uchechi said, you know, if you were to view Black kids by how they look and not by, okay, this white girl doesn't look like that and she's 9 years old, so there has to be something wrong with you. I truly do think it's about like shaming us before the world does. And we hear that all the time, you know, I'm trying to do this to you before the world gets to you. And it's like, I don't need that. I don't need that. That doesn't work also. It doesn't work for you to point out how I am the problem. I'm okay with you saying, listen, this is how the world is set up. Let's figure out a way for you to have your agency, and your body is not a problem for you. It may be seen by other people this way, and let's see different ways on how we can ensure that you know that you are beautiful and what you're wearing shouldn't attract anything. I think what we need to do is take the accountability away from the person that's walking this earth and just educate them on how everyone else sees them. So, yeah.
Well, I know we hit 9. Another one, you think?
Oh, it was over here.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And by the way, wonderful film. I showed up a little late, but I have a question for like both athletes. You guys spoke about like kind of like holding your emotions, kind of like painting your head down so you don't seem as aggressive or like so you don't come off wrong. This is something that I personally like have to deal with just because I'm someone who's like a little bit outspoken in a way. In my family, they all say that. Like, I've had like my grandparents personally told me like I won't get married because apparently like I'm too outspoken. Like, I just like have this, and it has really taken a toll on me to the point where like sometimes like I tend to like disassociate. Like, I don't talk that much to people, or like I don't. How do I say it? I don't try to like make friends or anything like that, or even associate in classes, because I feel like, what if I don't want to come off as, you know, being too aggressive to people, or like I don't want to say something wrong. So most of the time I have to like hold my emotions. Like, how did you guys like? I don't know. How did you guys deal with that? Because honestly, I'm struggling right now.
So I didn't really start expressing my emotions and I guess my aggressive side till I got to college. In my high school, my coaches always say, you gotta play with some class, China. You know, you gotta just calm down a little bit. So I'm just like, okay. So like whenever in the game, like it'll happen, or like it was a bad foul call or anything, like, and you know, I could feel like my blood boiling, like I'm ready to like start screaming. And then like she literally would like give me a look or something, and like, you know, like kind of like in a threatening way a little bit, but like kind of tell me just to calm it down a little bit. So in high school, I suppressed my emotions, I suppressed my feelings, I suppressed that, and just learned to play with class in that way when it came to that, not really expressing a lot of just like passion that is really deep in me for the game. When I got to college, and you know, being around a predominantly black team and coaching staff in general, I saw like the girls, you know, really expressing their emotion and their passion for the game and just like in general. And you know, like the coaches like really I guess like motivating them and like telling them to keep that passion, keep that drive, keep that. And I was like, dang, like I'm gonna see if I can do, like I'm gonna try it. And then like whenever I started doing it, like I felt so comfortable. It was like a big like relief, like a fresh breath of air that I was able to do that in that setting and still continue to do. So, you know, me being a fifth year and 23 years old, and so like just continuing to just do that. I have to say that don't suppress your emotions or your feelings for nobody, not relating to a sport, just in life in general. Just be your authentic self all the time. If you're an emotional person, you're an emotional person. I cry about everything. I really do. A lot of things make me emotional. I'm as empathetic as a person can get. I have a lot of empathy for people. I feel sad for just a homeless cat on the road. Like that's just me. Like I that's how I feel. Like that's just me as a person, and I express that, and I am unapologetically myself in any which way, in any and everything that I do.
Beautiful.
I don't know if I'm there yet. I'm no longer an athlete like that anymore. I play a little bit on the side, but I'm always playing. I'm lying. I got a game on Saturday. But I think for me and my emotions, one thing that I would really have to shout out is the types of players that I watched growing up, and being able to say, okay, she's still playing that way and she's there, right? So like the types of ball players that I enjoyed watching. I grew up around Rutgers women's basketball team. I grew up around Essence Carson, Epiphany Prince, going to those practices and seeing them really hoop. And I was like, well, this is a very intense practice. So, you know, if they can be intense, you know, I could still be intense. And like I said, I think the switch for me actually was the opposite. It was college where I had to tone it down a little bit. I think playing at a different pace. I played like in the Midwest, and the coach I played for and the team, it was a different pace than like growing up in Jersey and in New York City playing that type of basketball and just being like rah rah. I'm clapping in your face, I'm slapping the floor, I'm getting in your head, you know. And that was just like, all right, tone it down a little bit, like, you know. But I don't think that I necessarily like held in my emotion, despite being told like that's not how you should play, or like, you know, you're letting that get into your head and it's changing your game. I think for me, I just found a way to turn it in a way where it still benefited the team and like the coach. It didn't get to the point where I had to take myself out the game or, you know, I got too many texts. But as a current coach, I tell my girls that I coach in high school, and I tell my girls that, one, it's my job to protect you. So I'll take the tech. You kind of if there's something going on in the court, let me handle it. Let me address the ref or something. I'll take the tech every time. But I agree with China. You don't want to get to the point in anything that you do where you are now refraining yourself from being yourself, because then that you get to a dangerous point where it all comes out. In some way, it could be the smallest thing that can trigger you that has nothing to do with why you're really mad, and then now you exploded, right? I don't think that's healthy for anybody. You have to find what works for you, where you can be more expressive. You have to find your pockets of people that understand that that's who you are. For me, as I'm sure you can agree, when it comes to recruiting, you have to know what school is a good fit. You have to know all of those different things. But I think what's been said about everything and everyone that has had something to say in this entire conversation is that we've just been told for so long how to navigate this world that even in our adult and young adult years that we're still questioning if we're doing things right. Did I respond the right way in the workplace? Should I have said that to this coworker? Dang, I forgot. I should have said this to the coworker, right? So it's a lot of, we're still navigating the world as women. We're still navigating the world as Black women. And I do think that one thing that I enjoyed about the film was the different generations, the age range. There was some similarities across the lines, and there was also some differences. Like I said, I was raised by a Southern Black grandmother and a Black mama that had its flaws. I was definitely told, you were grown, you need to do this. Even in sports, my mom and my grandma just couldn't understand. My grandma used to just say, you out there acting like them boys. You know, just because how I was playing was just so rough. You're just so rough. You know, so you're just rough, right? So it just, I don't know if I even have the answers myself. I just find that I have to navigate, unfortunately, the world a little differently. I'll probably get there one day. I'm still learning the ropes as I navigate academia, as I still am very close to basketball. And like I said, the last thing I'll say is that I just try to be very mindful of either breaking what was told to me from coaches, but still being a mentor and a representative person for my players, and just find your pocket. Like I said, I love Cappie Pondexter, I love Becky Hammond, I love Shannon Bobbitt, I love Epiphany Print, and they was raw hoopers. So I was like, well, if they can hoop and they didn't really change themselves, I could do the same thing. So.
I know we have to wrap up, but it's not cutting the conversation short because we have a day-long symposium tomorrow. I don't know what happened to the graphics, but it will be in this building, the Healing from Anti-Blackness Interactive Symposium. Coffee is at 9:30. No, 9. 9. Coffee's at 9. We're gonna start at 9:30, and it's gonna be a day of embodied practice, artistic practices, a time to heal and come together. So again, it'll be Bush Student Center, room 122, starting at 9 o'clock. Hope to see you all there.
And ending with a dance party.
Oh, we gonna turn up. A DJ, a dance party. We got lots of yummy food. So hope that you all can join us. And thank you all so much for our pre-symposium event. Thank you, Chanel, and the panelists.
Wait, can I say one thing? One thing before we clap?
Get it.
Okay. Wait, hold on a second.